I won't let you down.
Thank you.
Davida.
Yes, I'm just curious, where's the agreement for the housing for Pastor Hicks?
That is still, and Bill, you could jump in if you want. Those agreements are still being worked on, and I believe they're almost at completion. Am I right, Bill?
I'm not certain I could say that they're almost at completion, but I can say that there have been multiple drafts and discussions with Start Right, and there's another discussion coming up following a new draft going out. I believe it's going to be on Thursday.
Right.
So it's getting a lot of attention and a lot of time and input, and both parties are working hard at it.
Are you privy?
The thing to remember is once that document is completed, then you can go forward with all of the different housing that Start Right would like to do. It's the initial document being completed.
Are you privy to say what is the holdup or the problems with the agreement?
I mean, I've been involved. I'm not sure I'm ready to say that there have been problems. I think it's a normal process to spend, a few weeks working on an MOU. Though the three of them all started, not immediately after authorization from council. And of course, there was the delay prior to that authorization, which council has discussed. Following the presentations from the three presenting groups. And similarly, I wanted to just shout out to Cedarly Meadowbrook. Council authorized the agreement with Tucker Ellis, to Mary's point, 2 weeks ago today. And so that process is also earnestly underway. Drafts have been traded and discussions are taking place. And everybody is working as quickly as they can on that.
So,
as well as on the neighborhood revitalization program documents.
Well, I know Star Right keeps asking about that agreement. So how long have that since the council approved that?
Are they asking you?
Yes.
Because they've been on the phone a number of times in the last week with their legal counsel and the city's legal counsel and economic development. So I think they know.
Okay, so that's probably because it's probably this week. We can
revisit that on Thursday and make sure that everybody's on the same page as to where it is.
Okay, well, prior to probably this week, they have been asking where was it and all of that because they had not been hearing any information. So They're ready to dig into start to put up homes, and they don't want to get into the winter months where they're looking at winter to try to build.
Understood. Yes.
Yeah.
Melody.
Yeah, I am concerned that they'll run into the winter months. Do we need to have? I mean, is this going to go into July, and would we need to have a July meeting to get those passed?
I don't think that we have a clear, firm answer on that, but I would say that if it looks like we're there and all we're waiting for is council and it's early in the month, we would reach out and have a discussion about whether a special meeting for that purpose would make sense. Remember that in July, after June, council meetings will need to take place in person. And so you'll need to have a quorum of people physically present in order to be counted as a member of the quorum and to vote. And that will make some of the convenience of pulling meetings together quickly, less appealing, or it will be less convenient to do that.
Yeah, I just want to be responsive toward their needs of trying to get done and get it started.
Do you think it's a possibility that it will be maybe close to being prepared by our 28th meeting?
I think it's possible. I would defer to and kick over to the economic development guys on that, but I think it is possible.
Yes.
Thank you.
Cleo.
Are we anticipating no debate about this contract? Because if we're talking about sort of the possibility of it being ready on the 28th for us to vote on, are we expecting no discussion or just very limited discussion on this contract, or will there be room for more discussion about whether or not we should enter into this contract?
That'd be up to council. We always have discussion before we vote on any legislation. So if council, if it's our choice that we have more questions and that the legislation on the 28th, whatever would be presented before us, is not that it doesn't have at least 4 votes, then that would perhaps a first reading, and then we would have to set up another time for a second reading. So that depends on what council wants to do. But if it's ready on the 28th, we could begin that discussion and possibly vote on it.
So what did we vote on?
Well, right now, just to answer that, we don't have anything in front of us, so it depends on what comes forward, what piece of legislation is brought before council to actually vote on, which Bill and the economic development team is working on right now.
Right.
Which I think the first step, I apologize for speaking over anyone. The first step would be to authorize the execution of the memorandum of understanding. And, at the moment, we're looking at then having a very short period of time to to negotiate and finalize a development agreement, which is then the contractual document that would guide the actual development of those parcels and lay out all the specifics.
But did we not vote for those 3 developers, or did we not, once they did their presentation? Maybe I'm confused. I thought we had said okay with the developers, but we're still waiting on the contract, or maybe I'm wrong here. Correction.
Can we clarify, are we talking about start right now? So Bill, what they're talking about is start right.
Okay, so again, what council would be reviewing as the first piece of legislation for consideration and discussion and debate would be a piece of legislation authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding. And in light of the timetable and the construction season, again, the timetable built into that memorandum of understanding in the current draft is very short. So that this process can move forward as quickly as possible. If council blesses it and adopts the legislation.
Melody.
Yeah, I just wondered if it would be helpful if, as soon as you had it, if it was like a day before or 2 days before, if you could shoot that out to council so they could review it ahead of time and raise any questions.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
When you say raise questions, just to be clear, you're not talking about a council discussion outside of the meeting, but you would have the opportunity to identify issues that were of concern or interest to you.
Right.
And certainly I'm happy to talk with anyone about any of those. And I'm sure that is true for Tim and Brian as well.
Yeah.
Mike.
So, I think Khalil asked a very fair question. I think he deserves an answer. At least for me, Khalil, I can only speak for myself. My view would be as follows. We absolutely can discuss any of these individual contracts that are being negotiated and let. What we can't do, it doesn't seem to me, just out of a sense of fairness, is backtrack with respect to the 3 developers. I mean, we gave them the green light. We said yes to all 3. And I don't want, just again, out of a sense of fairness and equity, I don't want to backtrack on that. But that doesn't seem to me to be in any way inconsistent with asking a lot of questions about the contract. And then the only other thing that I'd say is I like Melody's idea of getting the information as much in advance of the meeting as possible so we can review it. But I'm going to assume that unless we're told otherwise, that if we get it, that staff is recommending it as being a good deal and in the best interests of our city. I understand it's ultimately up to us to do our due diligence, but I am going to assume that unless you tell me that's an erroneous assumption. So I think Khalil raises a fair point.
Khalil.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. I do want to say that my recollection was that we, as a body, determined that we would prefer that the staff negotiate MOUs to present to council for all three of the responding
True.
contractors.
That's true.
But to in my view, that doesn't necessitate that we approve even an amended version of any MOU that's presented to us. I don't think that it obligates us in any way to approve anything. And I'll tell you, I continue to have, and since we're talking specifically about Startright, I'll focus on that. I continue to have serious reservations, both about the presentation, the deal that was presented to us, and I don't know how that deal has evolved thus far, but then also serious reservations about the history of the city with one of the principals in the deal. And I think that that's, possibly a separate conversation or a separate thought from the deal itself, but it's something that definitely sticks in my mind every single time that particular organization crosses our desk. So, I think that there are some serious conversations that we need to have. I don't know if we're going to resolve this to my satisfaction, but I guess we'll see what the MOU comes back as, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Mr. President,
Bill first, and then DeVito.
I wanted to make just one quick procedural point, which is that I think that Mr. Sarin accurately described the approval that council did provide, which was for staff to move forward with negotiations on an MOU. And I would also agree that cannot serve as authorization to enter into the MOU without separate council action.
Right.
DeVito.
Yes, my recollections was with Mike Unger, because I thought as a council we had agreed that all three were acceptable and to move forward with the MOU. But each group had a different piece of the city to develop. They were not all for the same parcel of land within the city. So I know Startright had one piece. Ozan, we brought them back to actually, Susanna was going to look at some different parcels of land for them as well, and then Liberty. So I understand that we have to vote on the MOU to make sure the information in there is correct and what we want. But I was in the impression that we had, like Mike, we had already said those three were good to go. We're just waiting on MOUs for each group. But I'm thinking each MOU is separate because they're actually representing a different part of the city. It's not the same property or the same piece of land. So if I'm mistaken, someone please clarify for me. But I'm with Khalil as well, that whatever the MOU are, we need to have a discussion about it and talk about it.
Okay, Khalil.
Yeah, I do want
Someone's going to answer
respond.
that. Am I on the right page there, or am I off page there?
No. I think you make an excellent point that this wasn't like sort of a competitive situation. I think that the way that the proposals broke down, it just so happened that there is the possibility of going with multiple, contractors for this greater program. So yeah, you make a very good point that this wasn't sort of a competitive situation among those three. But for my perspective was each individual MOU, and if another MOU for one of the other respondents comes before us, I would have the same need to look at it in depth and certainly not guarantee a yes vote for any of them.
Okay, any other legislative concerns or comments? Okay, seeing none, we can move on to our next agenda item. I need someone to make a motion to go into executive session for the two reasons listed: to consider the terms of purchase of real property for public purposes and to consider the sale or lease of city-owned real property.